Hello, everyone.
Hey, what's going on? Is it Kate?
Yes.
Hey, let me, for some reason, has you in as Councilwoman Koch. Let me just rename you. How do you spell your last name?
Raftery.
Okay. All right. So I know that Mark can't make it, but I know 3 or 4 others who will be here. So we'll wait a couple of minutes, and then we'll get going. Hello, Mr. O'Brien and Dennis Fernandez. Hello, hello. Lauren, what's going on?
Hi, DJ. Just saying hello.
Hey, Rachel. All right, I know that Betsy and Meg are supposed to hop on, so we'll give them a couple minutes, and then we can get going.
Okay.
Hey, Betsy, do you know if Meg was going to hop on tonight? Oh, there she is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yep, she just swung on.
So, DJ, had you seen all those lacrosse players on the turf before?
I was driving on Mccarter or on Fairhaven Road, and I saw what looked like some of them out there. But yeah, I didn't go over there when they were there. But yeah, every day I go past that turf, I see it being used in a different way. So
Yeah, it's good.
that's good. That's good. And I think it's kind of by the time of day too. Obviously after school, you get a lot of the middle schoolers out there, and then in the mornings, it's a lot of the toddlers, some parents working out, things like that. So
Yes.
it's all good. So yeah, Mark can join us tonight. I don't think Kevin is. Tina just hopped on, so I think we are good to start. So let's start it. So do everyone get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yep.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, so we'll start tonight with public comments, and I know that we have someone here from Fairhaven Soccer. So Steve, I will begin with you, and then we will, if anyone else from the public has any comments at any time, raise your hand and we will get going. All right, so Steve, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, DJ. How are you?
Hey, good. So if you just want to quickly.
Can I turn on my video, or just this isn't set up like that?
No, it'll just be the audio. Yeah. So if you want to just kind of give an explanation of what you'd like to talk about tonight, Steve is involved with Fairhaven Soccer, and he'll speak a little bit about some travel soccer that they're looking at getting going.
Hey everyone, so my name is Steve Kopp, and along with myself and Troy Medina, we've been, I guess, co-presidents of Fairhaven Recreational Soccer for the last year. We've both been involved with the board for the last few years, and then, with some of the with some of what happened last year with COVID and the uncertainty surrounding all the recreational programs, some people didn't want to be involved with helping put on what we were able to put together for the fall. So we had kind of a little bit of a change in leadership. So Troy and I have been leading. It's somewhat recent, but over the last month or so, our neighbors in Rumson had reached out to us regarding the idea of potentially creating a Rumson and Fairhaven combined travel soccer program. That sounds like a very tall task, and I know it has been visited and explored over the years and talked about, and I know there's a lot of competing programs, whether at the youth level, middle school, high school, all different sports throughout the year. Basically, the background of their reach out to us was when we went ahead and moved forward with obviously the recreation soccer program in the fall. Rumson, for whatever reason, with how their rec sports were set up, and DJ, you probably know a lot of this stuff, with how it was kind of looped more in line with their town council, they decided to dissolve or at least pause and not have any of their recreational sports or any of their travel programs for, I guess, the fall and the spring. So a lot of the kids over there, I guess, went and did a lot of other youth and recreational sports in other towns. Soccer notwithstanding, the soccer program, I guess, went and left the league they were doing and sort of reformed and linked up with Colts Neck temporarily for the fall, if you will. I understand this happened in, related to other sports like flag football and the like. I'm not 100% sure. It's all rumor stuff. But they reached out to us about a month or a month and a half ago, and they said, hey, listen, we're looking, we're going to be reforming the rec soccer program in Rumson. They're re-gearing up for that, and then the topic of having something more local, aligned with their rec program that could cater to the kids more locally. As you probably all know in some way, shape, or form, if you don't have kids that are involved in it, but you have friends that are involved in it, a lot of the travel soccer programs outside of, say, Peninsula, are based away from the surrounding towns in this area. So in a perfect world, we would love to have a program more local that could sort of be aligned with the recreational programs. It could be on our home local fields. It wouldn't be such a bother as far as travel and driving to and from fields on a regular basis for practices in all games. And the notion of Rumson starting their own travel program was born. And then what happened was they started getting all this interest from neighboring kids in Fairhaven. So what happened is just basically by word of mouth, the Rumson travel program was getting going, and kids were kind of scrambling as far as like, hey, we want to maybe play travel soccer. We haven't done it before, or maybe we played in one program and didn't have necessarily great experience. So as a result of the demand of Fairhaven kids showing like a decent level of interest, Rumson was interested in partnering with us for whatever potential field space that we could maybe help offer to them. They did share with me that they have 34 Rumson kids across boys and girls teams that have committed to play in their program. So they quickly moved and they put together tryouts at every age level from, I believe, the U8 all the way up to the U14 boys and girls. Remains to be seen how many teams they'll have at each level, or if at each level they might not be able to fill a team. But they have commitments from Fairhaven kids, and they're interested in partnering with us. They were recently approved from MOSA, which is the local travel youth soccer organization. DJ, I forget exactly what it stands for. Monmouth Ocean Soccer Association. They had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and they were sponsored by Middletown Soccer Club, and so they had a vote on it, and they were approved to, I guess, come into MOSA. So they will be a recognized organization this coming fall in the travel soccer circuit, if you will, playing against the likes of the Peninsula Soccer Program that kind of floats around between Fields and Ocean and Doorbrook and of the like, a little bit further west from Fairhaven and Red Bank. But, you know, my purpose of coming on in this meeting, and DJ, I appreciate you for kind of slotting me in here in the beginning, was, you know, to get a little bit of the background on, you know, what might be available to the Fairhaven soccer community to participate in something like this. I know there's a ton of demand and there's not readily available field space. And even in the fall, we only have, you know, one line full field and 2 to 3 other smaller line fields to even have access for our own kids for rec soccer, for just the Fairhaven rec soccer program. But I guess my ask is to see, you know, is basically around what was possible as far as the Fairhaven community being able to partake in a program like this.
Yeah, so thanks for that recap there. Definitely appreciate that info, and thanks for running Fairhaven Soccer last year. I know, like you said, Rumson didn't have anything going on. Some other towns did, some didn't. So I was definitely appreciative of the undertaking from last year. You know, I'll share with the committee what I shared with you, and that's that for those people that have been on the committee for the past, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, the idea of adding travel soccer in some capacity might have been a little bit different in the past, has been discussed, and it really comes down in Fairhaven to field space and field maintenance. And you know, I've discussed with Steve that we are really at the brim as far as what our fields can handle, and so that's what I've shared with him. But as he mentioned, I wanted the committee to hear the ask, and I know that Councilwoman Koch has been on the Recreation Committee for 20 some odd years, I believe, before being the liaison for council. And there's some other folks who have been on the committee that have discussed things like this in the past. So I'll hand it over to Councilwoman Koch to weigh in here, and then the committee and Steve, feel free to you know, open up some dialogue here as well after Councilwoman Koch touches on this.
Well, I think, DJ, you've been very upfront with travel soccer. You just sent them an email, and I've got it here. It was dated, oh, what was the date? Well, I know you resent it out this morning. And
Yeah, that was a conversation we had with Steve and Troy, the other, I believe, co-president, last week, just to give you kind of a recap of our discussions leading up
right.
to the meeting.
The bottom line is we don't have any field space available. And our fields are really being overused right now. And I don't see where you really could put these people, you know, in terms of timing, in terms of space, and in terms of maintenance. So I don't know what the rest of the committee is thinking, but I mean, we're booked.
And so Betsy and DJ, I can second that. And if I can just ask, so this is essentially the Rumson travel soccer that has existed in the past, but now they're looking to partner more formally and share field space obligations or the burden. Is that, or is it different than the former Rumson travel soccer?
Good question. Yeah, Steve, could you weigh in on that? Because I know that there was some type of travel in Rumson.
It's the same. It's the same program essentially. So it's the.
And
Rumson,
are they running? I'm sorry. Are they running into this issue because they did not prepare for the fact that they would need more field space than they have available to them?
I don't know that I would.
Like how did we get to this point? Is it because they need more field space?
I would say that I wouldn't call it, they haven't prepared for the lack of field space. I would say that they've known that they share similar issues as far as not having a lot of field space available for this sort of undertaking. And the idea originally stems from, I guess, parents and the kids and wanting to have something a little bit more local. So being that we had Fairhaven kids that showed a significant amount of interest in trying out and being part of it, and in discussion with the parents, that's where they put the question out to us is, can we do something together? And is there a way we could contribute something with some field space, even if it would be limited in capacity?
Sorry, and just to confirm, these would be the fields that we currently use for lacrosse in the spring, correct? That we'd be looking to try to, like, what fields are you?
Yeah, Steve, would it be
Requesting.
fall, the current soccer season, or because I know sometimes with some spring or travel soccer, it's typically in the spring, or would this be just added on in the fall, or would this be like a spring type of field
This
time?
would be set up as a year-round program. So it would be fall and spring. That's not saying like, hey, we were looking for an equal commitment of field time and space for both fall and spring. But the idea is to set the program up for fall and spring.
Got it. Any other questions or comments from the
Steve,
committee?
did it come, were they, because I know my daughter played Rumson Rec for 1 year, and in the past, Rumson they didn't welcome Fairhaven kids on their teams. You had to go Peninsula. You literally couldn't, because there were kids that didn't make certain teams and wanted to try out for Rumson and Rumson Rec. They would not, Rumson Travel wouldn't take kids from Fairhaven. And I'm wondering, do they need players? Is that number one? Do they not have enough players to field their teams? And I'm in the process right now of maybe looking for a team for my daughter to play. And I would look at Rumson because I heard that they actually need players and are taking kids from Fairhaven. But do you think it's more for the field space, or do you think that they actually need more players to keep their status with MOSA and be able to keep playing and field as many teams?
Truthfully, I honestly think it's both. I think they need the field space, one, and I do think they need the players. Our feedback to just my son and Troy's son both play. My son plays Cedar Stars. Troy's son plays in Match Fit. So we've been familiar with kind of the academy travel circuit in the area. And, our initial feedback to them was that we thought they were a little late to the game as far as trying to get this together. But then we had a couple of conversations with them and meetings, and they kind of ran down everything that they have done. They have gone and they've been interviewing, and I think they're down to selecting one of two training programs. So they want to hire trainers to not just only train the teams, but also coach the teams. So it would be a little bit of a step above your traditional parent coach teams, with maybe supplemented with a trainer or something like that during the week. And as far as their organization and information, as far as what they've done, and gathering names and organizing tryouts and how they have, I mean, they seem to have moved fairly quickly with the hopes of putting something on in some way, shape, or form. And however, whatever initial quote unquote new program this would look like, they would be as prepared as possible as they could for the upcoming fall. I don't doubt for a minute that they need more field space. So, with the interest of Fairhaven kids, with the kind of, I mean, as you mentioned, it's a little bit of a scramble this time of year, and maybe you tried out and made it, but it wasn't a good experience, and you didn't get a good feel for the coaches. People were kind of running around, and it's still travel soccer kind of, whack-a-mole to some degree. But, I would humbly submit that I think it's, hey, we have Fairhaven kids that are showing interest. We have this need for field space. I mean, maybe in the past they've been cold-shouldered. I have heard some of those rumors in the past that they haven't been receptive to any sort of partnering. I don't know what those reasons would have been, but I would say that sounds about right on cue.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. Hi, Steve, it's Meg Keefe. What are you, and I might have missed it. Are you imagining that there will be both boys and girls teams?
There will be both boys and girls teams. I was looking at, they shared with me a document with roster numbers and the number of Fairhaven and Rumson kids that they have per team. You know, it's anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You know, as high as 4 Fairhaven kids per team. So I would think this started out as, you know, it was certainly Rumson
Sure.
based kids, because I think they had kids that were feeding the travel program. It disbanded. The kids want to come back. The parents want to have them local if it's possible and it's competitive and it makes sense. But
Okay.
you know, kids have kind of gone elsewhere and done other things.
And how many teams are they, are kind of, is at the current status? If you're able to put together the field space, what is the current number of teams?
They are projecting anywhere from like 8 to 12 teams.
Okay.
I know that sounds like enormous when you start doing the math. You're like, okay, 8 to 12 teams,
Right.
1 to 2 practices per week plus a game a weekend, and that starts to like really suck up field space. But it's dependent on, you know, final numbers on teams, depending acceptances for the teams, and ultimately how things shake out. Like they could ultimately not have certain teams with certain age groups. But the word seems to be out there for their program.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess my last question would be, and again, I'm sorry if I missed this because I know that you touched on Rumson.
No problem.
Has Rumson committed to providing any field space at any time throughout the year, all the seasons or the whole year that you anticipate running the league?
They said they have commitment from, I guess it is Charlie Hoffman and the recreation program there for this.
I guess my question is what sort of commitment though, because I can only speak from the lacrosse perspective, but my husband's involved in RFH lacrosse, and I know that they have their own struggles with field space as between Fairhaven providing the field space for RFH lacrosse and Rumson providing field space for RFH lacrosse, which is a joint program between Rumson and Fairhaven. So I'm just curious what kind of commitment they've made, if any.
So I asked that, and I said, can you give me an outline of, days per week, like how many practices, how many games, games on weekends, like what does that look like? Their answer was, it was an ongoing discussion. They have commitment to help support this endeavor of boys and girls teams of anywhere from 8 to 12 teams. They don't know what that scheduling is going to look like yet, but that was kind of the answer I was given, even when I asked it a few different times.
Sure.
I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of that.
Understood. That makes sense. Thank you.
Just to clarify,
we have 0. Sorry, I was going to ask. So as we're discussing this, though, our understanding is that we have 0 additional capacity on our fields as they're constructed currently, right? Like we don't even have any field space or time available.
Yeah, I mean, there's
right now.
When you look at the our field use, and Steve alluded to it, in the fall and the spring, basically from 3 to 5:30 or so, you've got RFH out there as well as the NOLA teams, depending on the season. Obviously, depends on the sport. And then the rec teams typically hop on around 5:30 or so until dark. There's one-off times that there's some field space available, but not on a consistent supportive program basis. There's typically some like late afternoon Sunday space in some of the fields that you'll see. Again, when you talk about field space and what fields can handle, I do think, and it is true that you need to think about rest. And yeah, you can have people out there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day, but how is that going to be maintained? How big is your Department of Public Works staff? Ours is 7 guys. We have 1.5 field guys out there. So those are things from my perspective, and I ran this by the DPW supervisor and asked if he thinks we can maintain more. I'm asking guys if we can get grass cut. We're kind of at that level, making sure we can get a field lined on time. So just to
Is
add
there-
in, I don't know.
You know
if there's-
what, DJ, I'm a little bit confused. I thought we already had this conversation.
Yeah, so I think we had this
I'm
conversation.
not sure why we're having this conversation again, because I thought we made it clear we didn't have the field space and we didn't have the maintenance capability because our fields were fully booked.
Right, and that's my perspective, but I wanted, again, there's a couple new committee members, and I just wanted to kind of allow Steve to have the opportunity to present it. I didn't want to, give him the cold shoulder. I gave him my thoughts, my reasonings, and the information from the DPW supervisor as far as field maintenance goes and things like that. But I just wanted to allow the opportunity to speak here and allow committee members to speak and, be transparent and all that. But just to note.
All right, I just have one question. Is there anything, because I think most people on here know that my family's probably the most pro soccer in the town of Fairhaven that there is. But I also deal with money and know that you can't just make things grow from the sky. So is there anything for the future? Because I would agree from looking at just the charts even of the fields and the maintenance of the fields and not wanting them to just fall apart where they're unusable to anyone. That's also not where we want to go with this. Is there a field option or something that we could look to build that would make fields more versatile? Like, is it turf? Like is there an option to look forward to in the future, and not for us to raise money, but that we say, you know what, you want to do this? We fully support it. Look into this, raise the funds for this, and it'll make it possible for us to have increased capacity for the different sports and travel teams that want to use it together. Raise the money, go for it.
Yeah, you put turf on a field, you're going to maximize obviously the amount of people you can get out there. You put lights on that field. Again, I know, we don't have lights in Fairhaven on fields. We don't have turf on any fields, but that's how you get added use. You look at what Red Bank did with Count Basie. You look at some different plans. Rumson was close to turfing fields, and then it got nixed a couple years ago. But you're starting to see towns, especially towns that don't have a ton of field space, where there are residents who want added programming, and they're starting to realize that you can't, unless you're going to buy space or you're going to plow, trees down and things like that to make fields. Turfing is the option if you want to optimize what you have as far as allowing for added use. So that's the answer on that one. And just to go back, and Steve, if you can clarify, there has been, I know for the past 8 or 10 years or so, there's been a Rumson travel soccer program. So were they told by Rumson that they aren't going to have the space that they used to have? Because I know that that's where they exclusively ran their program. I don't think I've been looped in on that aspect. If you could
That's a good question. I don't specifically asking it in that manner if they would not have. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I would say it sounds like they're trying to do a program that is a bit bigger than what has been there currently.
Right, because I don't know the details, but it seemed like there was a team per grade, girls and boys, and they were able to support it field space wise. And I guess the question is, if they were able to have that space for the last X amount of years, I guess what's changed?
So that's a good point. Let me add to that. So what has changed is they've had demand, number of kids, enough demand to field A and B teams at the different levels for boys and girls.
Gotcha. So they would
And
have multiple teams per grade for boys and girls. Is that
right? So you'd have like 2013 boys, you'd have an A and a B team. 2013 girls, like an A and a B team. Not at every grade, but they're looking potentially at multiple teams per grade.
Got it. Okay.
So I think my 2 cents on this is just, I don't even know what the ask is. Like, I can't really figure out a way to make this find a solution to Lauren's point in regards to how do we build the space? Because I don't know how many hours we necessarily need. So until they can commit to us an exact amount of time and hours that they need from us in order to move forward with it, it's like taking the SATs. I don't have enough information to make an informed decision on this.
I would say my purpose of kind of jumping in here and DJ getting me on the call with you guys was to get a better understanding of, on a weekly basis, what fields are used for in the afternoons. It sounds like a lot on a Monday to Friday basis, and what the field use looked like on a given Saturday and Sunday. Because obviously, for something like this to happen, right, like there needs to be a field available sometime between, say, call it 5:30 to 7:30, at least a few days a week, with access on weekends to host a couple of games or so.
Yeah,
That's
and
true, but I
I
think
know that the town doesn't have that space unless you're talking about taking space away from other groups out there or telling the high school that they can't be out there.
Right.
5:30 they're typically done, but again, that's when the rec sports hop on. If you're talking fall and spring, you're talking reduction in time for, I guess, typically rec soccer when they're out there, and then rec lacrosse, baseball. If you're
So
talking
like rec soccer and rec lacrosse are the big ones for fall and spring, right?
yeah, and then baseball uses the outfield of a lot of those smaller fields in the back there. So it would, it would be a really tall ask. And again, I've given you, just based on what I know of the field space, my opinion. I don't see how it could work, and I think that's why the committee's come to this decision. Having looked into it multiple times in the previous few years. And again, I think the committee, I'm getting that sense. Councilman Mccarter, do you want to hop in again? And then we'll ask the committee for if we want to take a vote on if we think it's feasible. And then I guess we can go from there. I know, Steve, we're probably keeping you a little long here. I know it's been about half an hour. Sorry about that. I thought it'd be a little quicker.
yeah, we have spent a lot of time on this, and we have in previous conversations. And I think it's obvious we just don't have the field space. And even if we did have a little bit of time, there needs to be time for the fields to rest. Can't be on those fields 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but there needs to be a resting period also. But it doesn't even seem like we have that option, that our fields are in constant use. And maybe Mr. Kopp needs to go back to Rumson and see if they can find some time and space for their travel team.
Okay. So would anyone else like to hop in before I poll the committee and see what we want to move forward with, or anything like that?
I'll just add one comment. I think starting a program or restarting a program, expanding it is really admirable. I think it's really important that our kids have the rec outlets that they, need and want. And it's great that there's a really big interest in soccer. I know this past year has been particularly hard on field space because everybody's trying to jam in all their activities in the spring. Now that things are a little lightened up, I know both schools are doing construction, which is probably eating into the field space. And, to the extent there's the ability or opportunity to offer this field space for this program that won't overburden the field in the future, I'm certainly open to it and not foreclosed to it. But I also think that, based on what DJ shared from the borough employees and everything else going on, it sounds like the fields are currently pretty maxed. I would just say, Steve, okay. When you have more feedback from Rumson, I would say definitely circulate it, let us know. And, we can always revisit it. But I think at this point, it just sounds like, it's not really an option to commit to the field space that you're looking for.
Sure. So I will put to the committee, does the committee feel that Fairhaven just doesn't have field space for this program? If you would agree with that, raise your hand or say aye. Okay.
DJ, we don't get a vote, right?
No. Yeah. So I mean, it's Kev.
No, it's good. It's a good idea, and I think it would benefit the community. But unfortunately, it's just timing is tough, and it just seems like a big ask for the field. So, if there is if you do go back to Rumson and you could get specific times, maybe, I mean, we could look at it again. If there's anything at all that we could do, I would be open to hearing it, but it just doesn't seem like it's at all feasible this time, which stinks. But good luck with it, and appreciate you coming on.
All right. So it sounds like we've got the committee's opinion on that one. So Steve, again, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for, I think the job that you and Troy and the rest of the crew did during COVID to offer soccer in Fairhaven was, again, an applaudable task to take on. And I think you did an incredible job with it. Everyone I talked to has been incredibly enthusiastic about it. So you're definitely an asset to the town, and thank you for volunteering your time. I know it's not the answer you wanted tonight, but I think the committee has weighed in, and like they said, feel free to follow up. Maybe there's some things we can do in the future, but as of now, it just comes down to the field space right now. Steve, anything else before we head off and move down the agenda?
No, that's it for me. Thank you very much for the time, and I appreciate everybody's feedback and candor.
Thanks, Steve. All right. So we will move down to public comments. I see Dennis Fernandez, Madeline, Rich Panzella, and Susan O'Brien. If anyone would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. All right, we're gonna go to Madeline here. Hey, how's it going? Could you just state your name and your address, please?
Sure, Madeline Panzella, 10 Queens Drive. I sent a letter, and I think what I was asking for was not fully understood. What I was suggesting is an opportunity to include more players. I understand how to book the courts, but I'm booking the court for 6 people, and there are about 50 that would like to play. So,
what is this? This is for pickleball?
Pickleball, right. And, it's something that we had done in the past. And trust me, you did not reserve the courts, but I don't see any way out of the predicament we're in, because we've created 1 million small groups due to the restrictions. I'm not complaining about that, but we recreated them, and those are the people booking. So we have, like, I don't know, maybe 36 people playing, where it could be many, many, many more. So I'm not sure if that's not anything that you would consider or you frown upon. I'm not exactly sure where you stand on this.
Yeah, so just to remind the committee, we did allow the pickleball group to have a quote unquote open play session that is a standing reservation on Wednesday mornings. Before that, before COVID, before we had pickleball registration system, a bunch of them would just go out there and play and hang out and all those things. And what I'm guessing Madeline is asking for is for that to be expanded.
Right. I was suggesting Monday and Friday as well as Wednesday, but I'll take any day.
Right. And I'm a little confused because I've heard a couple, I've had a couple emails that are asking for expanded open play time. So can you run me through why individuals can't book a slot, or say, you want to have 20 people out there at 9 a.m.?
Oh, okay. We can.
Can I just finish? Thank you.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Why, say 3 people can't go on or 4 people can't go on, and each person reserve the court for that time, and how come that can't be accomplished in that manner?
3 or 4 people reserve the same court?
No, so if I wanted to go out and you wanted to go out and we wanted to reserve 2 courts, I could reserve a court for an hour and a half, and then you could reserve the other court for an hour and a half, and then whoever comes out in that to play in that time slot is
okay. So then I can and trust me, I have people that are willing to do exactly what you're suggesting. So they can when they reserve the court, reserve it as like Madeline Panzella open play, so that other people can see that it's not like this past week we had 20 requests to join our small group of women who've been playing all through COVID. Well, when we were allowed to, but we didn't even play in the snow. But I'm just trying to include people. I'm not trying to exclude people, and I'm just looking for a better way to do it. because there are, like I said, at least 12 different groups, and we're all booking times and fighting for times. And truthfully, we would all be willing to play together if we had that opportunity. So if you don't have a problem, I will post it as such, like, let's get some people together and we'll conspire to get the courts, and I'll publicly on our Fairhaven pickleball site say, come one, come all.
If I might interrupt, DJ, maybe I also misunderstood maybe what we're discussing now or how we discussed it before. I guess I thought that now when you go onto the reservation system, in the calendar, it will actually say Wednesday, 9 a.m. open pickleball.
It does
Correct.
say that.
Correct.
It does say that.
Yes.
It does.
Okay, so then to me, that suggests you don't have to reserve anything. You can just show up.
On Wednesday, exactly.
And what, sorry, is it Madeline or Madeline? Madeline, right?
It's Madeline, but it's spelled
Madeline.
Madeline.
Okay, Madeline, I believe what she wants is that to be expanded. So not just the 2 hours on Wednesday, but also on Monday or on Friday. And, you know, I know that in speaking with other committee members in Councilwoman Koch, you know, there's a lot of people that want to use the courts. So I think the reason that we have a reservation system is so that when people want to play, they go on, they reserve it, and they play with their, you know, their twosome or their foursome or their group, whatever it is. So the suggestion would be to reserve that slot. And, you know, whether that group wants to have a text message chain or an email chain and say, hey, I just reserved, you know, Monday for this week at 3 p.m. Whoever wants to come. I think that's something for the group to formalize or to have that communication with, not necessarily the town to say, hey, this group gets this court space over everybody else in the town and in the area. So that is what I would suggest. But you know, if Councilwoman Koch or Commissioner Keefe or committee members want to weigh in there, feel free.
I think that's a great system.
It's
They
a
have
great-
Wednesday, and you have the option of reserving every week those courts.
If there is not a problem with that, I can arrange, trust me, there's a number of people. So we can arrange the times and take all 3 courts and open it up to everyone.
Anybody who wish.
Yeah, as long as you have it reserved, you know, it doesn't matter if you're going out and throwing the ball up to yourself or you have a small, you know, group of friends out there. If you have the court reserved for that time, then you can use that court as you wish, you know, as far as those different parameters go.
Then great. I thought that would kind of like be bucking the system, but if you're okay with that, then that can easily be done. Thanks
Yeah.
for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Rachel, did you want to hop in or?
Well, it's dicey because I mean, I'm wanting to talk to exactly what you just mentioned, which the bucking the system, and that slightly worrying that it's a slippery slope of. So we spoke at length about the open session. We think it's a great idea, but we did want to start small, so to speak, in what we felt as though we could earmark for an open session or reserve for an open session. And so I wouldn't want the Mondays and Fridays to slip into that discretion that we were trying to find some balance with, but kind of off the book, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I
But
understand.
it's true. You would reserve it and it would be fair and square. I mean, the reservation system would be used fair and square. So I'm not exactly saying anything in particular. I just think want to think carefully about it.
Yeah.
Rachel, I understand where you're going with that, but I think that's the point of having an open registration system. That we really can't control. If we open up the registration system and someone wants to reserve a court, they can invite anybody they want to that court. I don't know how else we
I agree.
can
And
control.
I guess the only thing is if in that
I lost you.
Yeah, she's frozen. I understand what you're saying, and I have no problem going through the system. I was kind of asking your permission for us to do what you're suggesting. Like, we as a group will reserve all 3 courts and open it to everybody that wants to play. I mean, it's not a group of 12 people, it's a group of about 60 people.
Have you tried other municipalities to see if you could, like, use Fairhaven on Wednesday, use another township on the other days of the week?
I did not and here's why. Not last summer, but the summer before, this is exactly what we did every day. You just showed up. It was wonderful. You didn't have to worry about conflicts. And it was from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Nobody reserved the courts. But now,
Yeah.
because we are so reserved,
You didn't I missed you. You didn't reserve a court where?
a year ago summer
Right.
at Fairhaven Fields.
Oh, okay. But my
invited-
question is, what about trying another municipality on Monday or Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday and kind of spread it out?
Okay. I hear you. What I'm saying is we'd like to return to what we did 2 years ago, 2 summers ago.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying. Listen, I'm not in charge of anything. I'm an ex-phys ed teacher who's looking to let everybody enjoy the program. So we'll work it out any way that we can. I appreciate that you gave us Wednesdays. I was hoping to get at least one more day, but you know, that's a decision for you guys.
All right.
Well, thank
So
you.
I think if there's nothing else, we're okay, and the group will reserve some court time when they try to get out there, and hopefully the courts get used, and we're in good shape. Does that
Okay.
sound about right?
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. Anyone else from public comments? Going once, going twice. All right. All right, we'll hop to the agenda finally at this point. So we'll go down. Parks facilities report. Do want to start off by saying that the Mccarter Park turf space is finished. It's open. I've seen a number of these people of committee members and council liaisons out there. And for me, I'm seeing all types of different use. I'm seeing typically in the mornings, it's a lot of toddlers, some parents. I've even had some people tell me that that's where their kids are learning to walk because it's so soft, which is kind of cool. And then you're seeing people work out. And then after school, you're seeing a lot of the Sickles kids come over there, everything from throwing the football around. There were some kids playing lacrosse out there today. I saw a couple girls with field hockey sticks last week. So it's just getting a lot of different use, spike ball even. So I think it's getting used, which was obviously the intent, and it's adding some additional park space. I was in town Monday morning for the Memorial Day ceremony. When I was leaving, I actually saw some people on there, which I'm guessing the rest of the park was probably pretty wet from the 3 days of rain, and that turf was nice and dry. So so that's there. Putting together a little video, just show the town how people are using it and things like that. So just want to thank the committee for the support on that project and the council liaisons. I think it was money well spent. And everyone I talked to out there is really happy with it. The amount of, I try to go out there, for 20 minutes or so every day, and there's a lot of people out there. And I know I see Tina out there, and that park I don't think it's been used this much, at least since I've been here. And just to provide another space, which is mostly shaded, soft, clean, is a nice job by this committee and the council liaisons. So I don't know if anyone wanted to touch on that, who's been out there, comment on it, but just wanted to bring that up. All right, Kev, you been out there yet? Yeah. All right, sounds good. All right, moving down. So council report. Betsy, I know you were going to touch on the pickleball, but that's been talked about.
Right.
So I know if you had anything, or if Councilwoman Chris O'Keefe had anything.
I do have another thought, and it might be something that the committee would like to discuss. It's just a suggestion or a thought I had. I recently, I would say over the past few weeks, since the fields have been receiving a lot of use, I've received pictures and complaints from residents about overflowing trash cans, about the fact that sports teams are not cleaning up after themselves. In particular, that people were throwing pet waste into the trash cans. And I think we all received the email or the alert from the borough asking not to put pet waste into borough trash cans. You can put it into your own personal residence, but not a borough trash can. But thinking about it and looking at the mess that it's created, and it really is a mess, I'm wondering if, as a group, we might want to consider what the federal parks do, what the state parks do, what the county parks do, and that is have a carry-in, carry-out policy, where if you attend a sporting event or you go to one of your kids' games, or for whatever reason you might be in, say, Fairhaven Fields or our pocket parks along the river or Mccarter Park, that we think about carry in, carry out, and then we may not have that mess, those overflowing trash cans. And I'm particularly concerned about the area by the dock where those trash cans will overflow on a Saturday or Sunday. And then you have a storm like this weekend, and a lot of that waste got swept into the river. It just got drawn into the river from the rainfall. So it was just something I wanted to throw out to the committee for consideration. It might not be practical either, but
I think that's an excellent idea, Betsy. Take away the garbage cans and people will be forced to bring things home with them.
yeah, it'll take some education. And we would have to present it to the council for their approval, but I just was curious as to what the rest of us might think about that.
I like the idea, but at the same time, I think one of our biggest problems right now is that we can't get the majority of people that utilize our parks, which is children, to utilize our recycling and our garbage cans that are available. So I think they're going to just continue to do what they do, which is to litter, which is really unfortunate and sad. So I do appreciate that idea, but I really think it just we need to then work with the school and somehow do more of an education of the children, because I really think that a lot of it stems from them as well. And I don't think it's necessarily a solution to our problem.
But most of the litter is found around the trash cans. People just don't walk down through the park and throw something on the ground. They will actively look for a trash can, and if it's full, throw it on the ground.
It just seems though too that the way the children have, and where I primarily see it, especially at the community fields, is that it's usually all around the basketball court. It doesn't necessarily seem as if they're actively even looking for one. So I feel like they still just keep litter all over the ground.
I tend to agree with Tina. I think residents too, from what you see on the Facebook page, will be very upset. They want more garbage cans versus less.
Is there any way to go, like kind of how the animal control has tried to be sneaky and smack down on the leash use? Is there any way to just go gangbusters on fines? I know these are kids, I get it, but I don't know.
Mccarter Park 2 weeks ago was pretty bad. I mean, really, really bad. And there's a lot of empty garbage cans. It's the second time that I've seen, and this was actually worse than the last time. I don't know. I feel like it's a battle we're not winning in the town, unfortunately. And I'm sure it's kids, and it's definitely some, adult-driven issues too. I was thinking recently about, maybe forming some type of volunteer organization to give kids incentive to volunteer to go pick up the parks. Something they could put on their resumes, something more, to get them more involved, to care about them. Because I've noticed it getting really, really bad lately. And, I'm really over the one park that I really go to. I'm not going all over Fairhaven, but I know Mccarter has been the worst I've ever seen.
So
I
what if
think
we
that's a
did
great
that?
idea.
What if we did that hand in hand with Betsy's idea of like, so, because it's true, if you take away garbage cans, it really may be a even amount of trash that's left, right? So increased garbage cans, I don't know is going to solve the trash around the basketball courts. And fewer garbage cans may not solve the trash around the basketball courts. But fewer garbage cans is moving towards the tough love of, if you don't have a reusable bag, you don't get a bag at a store, you know, so, and that's the tough love that's going to get people to start having their water bottles that they take home with them, or realizing that they have to carry in and carry out. You know, it could be a hand-in-hand situation, and we establish the goal and provide the crutches and the volunteer student groups to take baby steps to get to that more idyllic goal.
Yeah, we have to do something. It's a mess.
Yeah, from my perspective, from what I've seen, this has definitely been the worst year. And I was at one of the ball fields earlier today, checking on some things, and someone from Fairhaven Baseball that was there and like, yeah, we're sending an email tonight to our parents because this field is, you know, there's a lot of stuff here. I sent some photos to DPW today, community center, tennis courts over there by the playground, just a lot of trash. And I know the parks are getting used more than ever, and there's a lot of unsupervised activity because the kids get out of school at 1 or 1:30, whatever it is, and they're out there and it's a field day for them. You know, they don't need to work. There's no parents hanging out with them. They can kind of do what they want. So, I mean, I do see that. I think if you're going to pull them, I think to limit them, I think you're just going to see a lot of the overflowing trash again. I think it's either you keep them or you remove them. Personally, I think it's a tall task, and it's going to take a lot of not only education, but growing pains and all those different things. I personally can't think of another small town or a town with our makeup that doesn't have trash cans in their parks. I know that the national parks do them, but I can't think of any local towns that just don't have garbage cans and what that would mean. And you know, we don't just have Fairhaven people using our parks for sports leagues and high school games and things like that. They're kind of coming from all over, and you know, it's I think a big ask, but I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents with that.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure a way to reduce the impact because it's gross and it's not getting better.
Yeah, and Councilwoman Koch, as someone who's been on the rec committee for 20 some odd years, I feel like this discussion isn't new. I know it seems that it's worse now than it has been in recent years, but I remember Bob Kruger would talk about, hey, we talked about dog poop cleanup 15 years ago, 18 years ago, and I feel like is this a new phenomenon, or is it just something that the parks are getting more use, so it just seems like there's more waste out there? Maybe there is, but nothing. I'm sure we've tried to educate people before. I'm sure when I was growing up in Fairhaven, they were trying to educate my age group, and I don't think it's unique to Fairhaven necessarily, or unique to our situation right now. But I feel like, unfortunately, it might be one of those evils of having public access locations, where it's just something we'll have to continue to get better at. But I don't know if we're going to.
Expensive problem. It's a very expensive problem.
And I would honestly say that that's an argument towards what Betsy is suggesting, is the fact that we've tried this for years and years and years, and there hasn't been, so this idea of if it's not broken, don't fix it, but this is broken. And so we maybe try this new solution, try this new idea and see if it works. Like, see if there's no garbage cans. I find when I'm in a public place, I'm surprised when there's a garbage can, but unfortunately that's because I am informed by the first World Trade Center, like this idea that garbage cans used to be removed for security issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then they popped back into our lives. And maybe removing them and trying that, if what we've been trying for so many years is not working.
Right. I do like what you sort of alluded to in that maybe you roll it out as like, hey, this fall we're going to be piloting a no garbage cans in the park program, where it's not like, hey, Fairhaven, you've been bad. We're taking away your garbage cans. It's like, this is a new approach to see if we can reduce the waste, and it's not forever. We'll see how it goes for a few months or for a season. And if it gets really bad, we can always bring it back. But I don't know how, Councilwoman Koch, you might know more, or Chris or Keith, regarding our contract with our trash disposal companies. If we're not having them access or pick up those trash cans and recycling cans, which is, probably 25, 30 cans total across all of our parks, how that would affect our contract with them. Would we still be paying that price even though they're not picking them up? Would you be able to restructure that contract? I think those are some higher level questions.
Yeah, well, we can think about it, but, we've spent so much time talking about cleaning up the river, the Navasink, and now we have trash cans next to it where trash is being swept into the river. I actually have never seen anybody throw trash on the ground and throw trash where the trash cans are. There's no room. But it's just something that's really bothering me.
Really quickly, Susan O'Brien has her hand, so I will allow her to speak. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I like the idea of what you take in, you carry out. And I think the approach that Rachel said, where they took away the garbage cans for security reasons, use that as an excuse and just scare everybody so that they'll get used to carrying out.
I don't know. That's dicey. I mean, we don't want to start suggesting that we need to be worried about bombs and garbage cans. I wouldn't take that message.
But you're going to have an awful big uproar if you tell people that they have to carry out whatever they carry in. And they'll complain endlessly about no trash cans. But if you tell them it's more a security feature, I mean, we've got security in our schools, hopefully. So why would this be anything new that would surprise people? I just think it's a good approach. I like that idea.
DJ, we can't hear you.
All right.
I just think with the littering problem that there is, taking them away could be catastrophic. Like, to the people that are coming in maybe from out of town and they're at a ball game and it's take in, take out, maybe you'll have some, but with the kids who have been, not the best at our fields, if there's nothing there, I think it's gonna not go over so well. But I understand the thought behind it. I just think it might be a little too drastic to implement.
So, Councilman Koch, what were you looking for this committee to respond back with? Were you just kind of taking a temperature of the room tonight?
Yes, I wanted to, before, we pursued it, really the rec committee is the committee that would make the suggestion. And I just kind of wanted to get a feel, our committee members represent a very diverse group of residents, different neighborhoods, different types of families in terms of kids who are at either Sickles or Knollwood, or their kids have brought. Anyway, we're all a little bit different. So I was just curious as to how people would respond to that idea. And it's not going to be easy in the beginning. It's not an easy idea. But if no one thinks it's a good idea, it's just another idea. That's all.
I think it's a good idea. And I think it's a good idea hand in hand with Kevin's idea. And I think people didn't like no bags from the grocery store before, and we're going to grow to like it.
I just wanted to comment. I think it's a great idea. It feels like it works much better at a state or municipal or national park that has an entrance and an exit, whereas a lot of our fields are just that open fields where there's not a strict or discrete exit and entrance. What I think would be interesting to see is if we trialed it at a specific location to see if it worked and how it functioned. And maybe it's more appropriate for some locations such as the dock versus other locations such as Fairhaven Fields it feels like Fairhaven Fields is so busy. They have the bathrooms. People go there with a picnic for the park or to play sports and might have water bottles, whatever it might be. And I think not having something for them to dispose of trash is, again, could be that catastrophic problem. Whereas at the dock, people might walk down with a cup of coffee, might go down, with whatever, but there might not be an exorbitant amount of trash. And any trash that might be there might be really related to fishing or crabbing. I don't know. So it might be worth exploring or trialing at specific locations. I think it's a good idea, in principle. And if we can make it work for at least some of our parks or open spaces, it would be effective, I think.
I think that makes a lot of sense, that some locations it would work better for than others, just based on the type of use. And, kids sometimes, if they have a water bottle and they chug it and then their friends go run over somewhere else in the park, there's times they're going to forget it. It's tough when you're at the dock to purposely throw a water bottle or wrapper in the river. I think that's a much more intentional, littering classification, I guess. And I think my guess would be that's more rare than someone forgetting a water bottle or something like that. So maybe you wouldn't have as much, and maybe it could be more successful in a location like that.
Also, Mccarter Park, from my experience with my grandchildren, very few kids go to Mccarter Park, outside of school hours, that are not accompanied by their parents. So
That's not what I've actually been experiencing at all.
Really?
lately. I go there probably almost every day, and I am like shocked. And it's not a criticism to other parents. Like, it's also like, my son is only 5 years old. He's my oldest. But I go and I'm like, how old are these kids? How is it that I'm the only adult here? And there's like maybe 1 or 2 nannies here. And then so it's like 3 adults and 40 kids hanging out all by themselves. And I
don't go during the week.
flabbergasted by that. I go during the week. It's normally like later, like after school hours, because my kids get out later. So I normally go around after my son's nap. So like the 3 to like 5 o'clock is normally when I see that during the week. Yeah,
and during the morning, I think I would side with Councilwoman Koch, where in the morning when it's the younger kids, and probably I'm guessing your grandchildren's age, it's a lot of, all right, they're not going without their parent or their
I'm talking about weekends, not weekday afternoons.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've seen both, and I've definitely seen 2-3 o'clock where there's dozens of kids out there, and you're just like, these kids are in second grade, and there's one parent here for 30 kids. So I've seen it both ways, and I think our parks are unique in that they get a lot of different use different times of day, depending on where.
You're on mute.
Yep, I'm done.
Oh.
Anything else, or did you want to leave it any other way?
Maybe we could talk about it, think about it. Maybe I'm not looking for any resolution right now, but it's something maybe think about, talk to the people you go to the parks with, anybody think it's an idea worth pursuing? If not, it's just an idea.
Sure, and maybe I can reach out to any of the towns. Again, I'm not aware of any, but who knows, maybe they're thinking the same thing, or maybe they've tried it at one park and it works at the waterfront locations and not the parks where there's sports. So I'll reach out to some people and see if that's something that's come up or that has been tried.
Yeah. And especially by the dock, all the lines that the fishermen throw, the hooks, all that stuff, it just, a lot of it gets washed back into the river.
Yep. All right, so we will head down. Anything else for council? Either Councilwoman Koch or Chris or Keith?
That's it.
I do. I have something, but it's very brief, and I'm not sure if it actually even falls under our preview, but I just wanted to ask, because otherwise I'll go into their channel. I live on Lincoln Avenue in the 123 neighborhood over there, and we have an insane mosquito problem. It's like unbearable, and it just gets worse and worse every summer. And I had a couple of people come out to my house to kind of talk about it, and two of the guys actually said that because we don't aerate the pond over there as you're coming from Red Bank on River Road, that the mosquitoes, and as a consequence, the bats, which I had in my house this year, are out of control. And I also have some videos of the bats going in and out of Knollwood. I was wondering who I would raise it to, if it's town council, to try to get some estimates to get an aerator in that pond. Really rudimentary estimate I got was like 5,000. But you know, that was just somebody just telling me something. I didn't really go to the vendor. But I wanted to know if that's something like rec would ever suggest, because we do seem like we are all over the place, or if it's something I should go to town council about.
I would go to the borough.
The borough?
Yeah, the next council meeting is June 14th. And I would suggest, you know, for the good of the borough, mentioning that you brought it up before the rec commission, and now you'd like to bring it up before the council, because they are in the process of doing some, you know, we're talking about several options with Mccarter Pond. And we've also what is the name of that pond? You're talking about the one that's
Rankers.
Branker Pond.
Yeah, Schwenker's Pond. And so they're talking about ways of cleaning it up, reducing some of the biotics that are settling in the river and the ponds. So I would come to our For the Good of the Borough and bring it up.
Okay, I will definitely do so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. Councilwoman Chris McKeith, did you have anything else regarding any council items?
No council items. Nope. Thank you.
Sounds good. We will move on down. So old business. Give me one sec here. So on the multi-purpose wall, I know at the last meeting we discussed that there was a potential for around $27,000 to be removed from the cost if turf was used instead, or if quarry dust was used instead of the turf. And we discussed that Long Live Lax would need to get an updated estimate with those different cost changes in mind. And then we'd like them to come back to us at some point with what that cost is going to be and how they plan to raise that money, and ideally put a timeline on that so we can know, all right, by say December 2021, if the funds aren't raised, then we'll kind of move on from this idea. Has there been any discussion with Long Live Lax, Councilwoman Chris McKeith? And if so,
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I can give you an update. They have reached back out to the engineer that they had initially had dropped the plans and gave the budget estimate. They provided them with that updated information from Rich Gardella, the borough engineer. Just a minute. And they are in the process of getting those updates. So I'm hoping by the next meeting, they will be able to share with the committee what they've got in terms of any updates and those plans and budget estimates. And if we have them on hand beforehand, I will certainly circulate them to the committee.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate that update. So the grants, New Jersey Local Recreation Improvement Grant. So I did submit that grant last week, and that is the grant for the Learn to Bike area at Mccarter Park. So that grant is submitted for. We will hear back June 11th if we got it. And then at that point, the town will be able to speak or think about, how we're going to go about using those grant monies if it's something that we're going to move forward with. But I know some of the committee members here provided letters, so thank you for that. Some people here helped with some of the estimates and things like that. So Tina, thank you for providing that input, and the committee just in general and council liaisons for the support of it, bringing it to council. So hopefully next meeting we'll have an update on that, and we can go from there and just continue to make some small park improvements as we can. So just wanted to give you that quick update and move down. So we did have our in-person Memorial Day ceremony on Monday, and it was a special event. Jamie Riley's family was there. For those of you who don't know, Jamie Riley lost his life in service, I believe in January of 2019, if I'm correct. Don't want to say the wrong date, but his family was on hand, and we had a lot of veterans and family veterans in town for that event. So it was nice to have that in person again. We had the virtual last year, which is always nice, but to see the veterans and to see their appreciation and to see that camaraderie is really nice. So thanks for Councilwoman Koch for being on hand that day, and I was happy to see that. So not sure if anyone caught that online or not. moving down. So summer events, we talked about at the last meeting. We said at the last meeting that we kind of wanted to see how things go, and we wanted to see what some other towns are doing as far as summer events and things like that. So I know that Rumson is looking at doing 2, maybe 3 concerts in the middle of end to August. So that's what I can report back on. They were thinking about maybe doing a movie night or 2 as well, but nothing concrete. So I don't know what the committee's thoughts are. Do we want to look at running some concerts maybe towards the middle or end of the summer at the dock? Or I know we talked about the Normandy. Issue with that is we'd have to get some power source there, but that's an option. Or get some movie nights going for the summer. Any thoughts on that from anyone?
I think music on the dock would be wonderful.
I agree.
It's a great idea.
Fully support.
Okay, sounds good. And movie nights too, or do you think just concerts?
Movie nights are great too.
That's fine.
Movie nights.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I'll get in touch with the vendors and the bands and things like that and see, what we can line up and go from there. Hopefully we got most of the rain out of the way last weekend. So hopefully we'll have some nicer weather this summer. So moving down, what do I have on there?
Graduation.
Oh, yep, graduation. So Knollwood is going to have their graduation at Fairhaven Fields. Just wanted to make everyone aware of that in case they didn't know. Wednesday, June 16th. So they'll be out there. They're going to have a stage and things like that, which is nice. I'm not sure what some other schools are doing. I know some are still doing virtual ceremonies, but this was an option that allowed the graduating class and their families to view the ceremony together in person. So we will have them out there. They're going to provide porta johns and extra garbage waste totes and things like that. They're going to come back and do some garbage cleanup the next day. It should be relatively quick. It's really just a ceremony, and then the 8th graders go back to Knollwood and they have an outdoor party of sorts. I guess that replaces the old dance they had at Mccarter Park. So they're going to have that going on. But so if you see a big tent out there, that's what that's for, June 16th. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And that's all that I have. There wasn't a ton on the agenda, but I thought the open session might take a little bit longer, which it did. But that's all that I had for tonight. And typically, the rec committee doesn't meet in July. They meet in August. They take July off. That's pretty much what we've been doing since I've been here, and I guess since Charlie's been here. Do we feel like there's a need to change that this year and meet in July, or do we think August is the next meeting for this group?
August.
Okay.
My only thought would be, DJ, will we have to make any sort of decisions once we receive a response from the grant that would require us to meet in July and maybe take off August instead?
I think that's a possibility. And I think with that and with the lacrosse wall group or the multi-purpose wall group, if updates come up, because those are big projects, we can call a meeting with the committee, or we can discuss over email if we need to. I think if the committee's on board with that.
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So that sounds good. I believe it's August 2nd, I want to say off the top of my head, that first Tuesday. And I'm not sure if the police are doing National Night Out or not, but they should normally the same night, August 3rd. So we'll see. Councilwoman Mccarter, Chris McKee, do you know if they're doing National Night Out this year?
I have not heard anything.
I don't know. I can check in. I'm glad to check in and let you know.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for discussions. They were lengthy tonight, but I appreciate that. And anything else comes up, give me a call, shoot me an email or text, and we'll be good to go.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Bye.